Hi friends, welcome to our channel Way to Success. இந்த வீடியோவில் PGTRB Zoology Unit 1 Comparative Anatomy of Vertebrate ஹார்ட்டுக்கான ஷார்ட் நோட்ஸ் பார்க்கலாம். Introduction. Heart is a hollow muscular pumping organ that pumps the blood through blood vessels and maintains blood circulation. It is conical in shape. Heart is always ventral to the gut and enclosed by the pericardium. Heart is the first organ to function in the embryo and the circulatory system is the first functional system. Heart is mesodermal in origin. All chordates have a circulatory or vascular system comprising a system of vessels and channels through which two kinds of fluids travel in separate yet interconnected vessels. The fluids are the blood and the lymph. The blood vascular system is a closed system in vertebrates. Heart of chordates differ from those of lower phyla in their ventral location. Evolution of heart. The evolution of heart occurs in two aspects. First one, increase in the number of chambers of the heart. Second, conversion of single type of circulation to complete type of circulation. One chambered heart. It is the simplest heart. The heart is single chambered and tubular. It is found in ambiaxis. Two chambered heart. The heart is S-shaped and it is formed of two chambers, one auricle and one ventricle. It is found in cyclostomes and fishes except dipnoi. Three chambered heart. The heart consists of three chambers, two auricles and one ventricle. It is found in dipnoi, amphibians and reptiles except crocodiles. Four chambered heart. The heart consists of four chambers, two auricles and two ventricles. It is found in crocodiles, birds and mammals. Evolution of heart in vertebrates. The heart is unpaired organ, but its origin is bilateral. In an embryo, the mesenchyme forms a group of endocardial cells below the pharynx. These cells become arranged to form a pair of thin endothelial tubes. The two endothelial tubes soon fuse to form a single endocardial tube lying longitudinally below the pharynx. The splanchnic mesoderm lying below the endoderm gets folded longitudinally around the endocardial tube. This two-layered tube will form the heart, in which the splanchnic mesoderm thickens to form a myocardium or muscular wall of the heart and an outer thin epicardium or visceral pericardium. The endocardial tube becomes the lining of the heart known as endocardium. Soon a transverse septum is formed behind the heart which divides the coelom into chambers, an anterior pericardial cavity enclosing the heart and a posterior abdominal cavity. The heart is a straight tube but increases in length and becomes S-shaped because its ends are fixed. Appearance of valves, constriction, partitions in the heart and differential thickenings of its walls form 3 or 4 chambers in the heart. First one, single chambered heart. In ambiaxis, a true heart is not found. A part of ventral aorta beneath the pharynx is muscular and contractile and acts as heart. Two-chambered heart. In cyclostomes, there are 4 chambers arranged in a linear order. A thin-walled sinus venosus, a slightly muscular atrium, a muscular ventricle, and a muscular conus arteriosus or bulbus cordis. It lies in the body cavity in which other visceral organs are also present. Out of 4 chambers, only atrium and ventricle correspond to the 4 chambers of the higher vertebrates. In the evolution of heart, many changes have taken place. Elasmobranchs, except dipnoi, the circulatory system in fishes, from cyclostomes to teleost, only deoxygenated blood goes to the heart. From there, it is pumped to the gills, aerated, and then distributed to the body. The heart of cartilaginous dogfish is muscular and dorsoventrally bent, S-shaped tube with 4 compartments in a linear series. They are sinus venosus and atrium for receiving venous blood, and a ventricle and conus arteriosus for pumping this blood. The heart is a branchial venous heart. The sinus venosus and conus arteriosus are accessory chambers. Atrium and ventricle are 2 chambers, thus it is a 2-chambered heart. The sinus venosus opens anteriorly into atrium through sinoatrial aperture. The atrium opens into the ventricle. The thick-walled muscular ventricle opens into a narrow conus arteriosus containing valves in 2 series. The heart is enclosed within pericardial cavity, separated from body cavity by a transverse septum. Conus pierces the pericardium and becomes continuous with the ventral aorta. Pericardial cavity communicates with the body cavity through 2 perforations in the transverse septum. 3-chambered heart. Dipnoi. In dipnones, a septum divides the atrium into right and left chamber. This is correlated with the use of swim bladder as an organ of respiration and represents the first step toward the development of the double type circulatory system, whereby both oxygenated and deoxygenated blood enter the heart and are kept separate. Blood from right auricle of the lungfish passes into the right ventricle and is then pumped into the primitive lung-like air bladder by pulmonary arteries which branch off from the 6th pair of aortic arches. The oxygenated blood returns to the left atrium by way of pulmonary veins like amphibians. In amphibians, the dorsal atrium sits anterior to ventricle. The sinus venosus opens into the right atrium dorsally and not posteriorly. The atrium is completely divided into right and left chambers and has no foramen ovale in the interauricular septum, which remains open in dipnones. Deep packets develop in the ventricular cavity. The conus arteriosus divides into systemic and pulmonary vessels by a spiral valve. In lungless salamanders, the interatrial septum is incomplete and pulmonary veins are absent. Next, reptilia. In reptiles, the heart is further advanced. The atrium is always completely separated into right and left chamber, and in many forms, the sinus venosus is incorporated into the wall of the right atrium. The ventricle is also partly divided by a septum in most reptiles, and in the alligators and crocodiles is completely 2-chambered. This means that oxygenated blood coming from the lungs to the left side of the heart is essentially separated from the deoxygenated blood from the body to the right side. Thus, in crocodiles, but some mixing does occur in other parts of the circulatory system. The embryonic conus arteriosus splits into 3 instead of 2 vessels. First one, pulmonary arch carrying blood to the lungs from right side of the ventricle. Second one, right systemic aorta carrying blood from left side of the ventricle to the body by way of right 4th aortic arc. Third one, left systemic comes from the right ventricle to the left 4th aortic arc. At the point of contact with the systemic aorta from the left ventricle, even in crocodilians An opening between the two is present called the foramen of Panizzi, where there may be some mixing of the two types of blood. Thus, reptilian heart represents the transitional heart against amphibian heart, two complete auricles and two complete ventricles, with a little mixing of blood in right and left systemic. Four-chambered heart, aves and mammalia. In birds, the ventricle is completely divided into two so that the heart is four-chambered. There is complete separation of venous and arterial blood. The systemic aorta leaves the left ventricle and carries blood to the head and body, while the pulmonary artery leaves the right ventricle and carries blood to the lungs for oxygenation. Thus, there is double circulation in which there is no mixing of blood at any place. The sinus venosus is completely incorporated into right auricle, which receives two precavals and a postcaval veins. The left auricle receives oxygenated blood through pulmonary veins. Conus arteriosus is absent. The pulmonary aorta arises from the right ventricle and a single systemic aorta arises from the left ventricle, and both have valves at their bases. Fish's heart. The heart of fish is S-shaped and has only two chambers, namely an auricle and a ventricle. On the dorsal side of the auricle, there is a sac-like sinus venosus which receives blood from all parts of the body. This opens into the auricle by an aperture. Auricle communicate with the ventricle. Ventricle is continued ventrally and forward by another swollen part called conus arteriosus. Conus extend forward as ventral aorta. Amphibian's heart. The heart of frog has two auricles and one ventricle. Two auricles are separated by interauricular septum. Sinus venosus on the dorsal side opens into the right auricle through sinoauricular aperture. Left auricle is filled with oxygenated blood. The two auricles open into the ventricle. Reptile's heart. The heart of reptiles show improvement over the amphibians. Sinus venosus merged with the right auricle. Right and left auricles are completely separated by interauricular septum. The ventricle is also divided imperfectly into two halves. Conus split up to the base into two vessels, namely pulmonary artery and aorta, that cross each other. Bird's heart. The first land vertebrates to have achieved complete separation of pulmonary and systemic circulation. Heart is large and four-chambered. Sinus venosus and conus are absent. Right auricle is filled with deoxygenated blood. The two postcaval and one precaval vein dumping the deoxygenated blood into the right auricle. Left auricle is filled with oxygenated blood. The pulmonary vein is dumping the oxygenated blood into the left auricle from the lungs. Right auricle open into the right ventricle by monocuspid valve. Left auricle opens into the left ventricle by bicuspid valve. Mammal's heart. Heart is four-chambered, completely divided into auricles and ventricles. Right auricle opens into right ventricle by tricuspid valve. Left auricle opens into left ventricle by bicuspid valve. Wall of heart is supplied with coronary artery. Thank you for watching this video.